I'm going to say passivity of the man. That's the wrong word to describe Mikhail Gorbachev, but perhaps tranquility is an appropriate word. He is a man who is at peace with himself, at peace with what he has done over the past few years, and at peace with the message that he delivered today to the, I was going to say the Soviet people, to the Russian people.
Наверняка каких-то ошибок можно было бы избежать.
No doubt it might have been possible to avoid many mistakes, to have done much in a better way. But I am sure that sooner or later, our common joint efforts will yield their fruit. Our peoples will live in a prosperous and democratic society. I wish all of you the very best.
In a curious way, Mikhail Gorbachev is, to this very day, a much more popular figure overseas than he is here in his own country. So it is with, I guess, some apprehension that John Donvan went out today to get the reaction of Muscovites to the resignation of the man who has been the president of the Soviet Union for the past 6 years.
When Mikhail Gorbachev's face appeared on the TV set at Moscow's Byelorussiya train station tonight, some people looked up and listened. Some people deliberately did not. But most, it seemed, had their minds somewhere else, catching the train, getting dinner, getting home. The events that most of the world calls the end of an era, Gorbachev's resignation, and the last lowering of the Soviet flag that flew over the Kremlin dome, were mourned by few of the people who had passed their lives under that flag. It is difficult to pinpoint when exactly the people of this country wrote off Gorbachev. Obviously, it was after they realized they didn't have to fear him, and probably around the time they began to think that his attempts at economic reform had made their living standards worse rather than better. On his last day in office, it seemed that his own people had stopped giving much thought to Gorbachev a long time ago. Beneath these mammoth gates that Stalin built to last forever, leading to a park that celebrates all the Soviet Union would ever achieve in the fields of science and agriculture and engineering, the ticket taker did not even want to talk about Gorbachev today. Don't ask, she shouted, and then went on to curse the good-for-nothing foreigners bothering her with questions. Her colleague, who has worked this gate since 1957, was not so hot-headed, but she was against Gorbachev. Good that he resigned, she said. It's his fault that everything here has collapsed. What we heard over and over today, from colleagues Gennady and Ivan, from soldiers Kostya and Pasha, from close friends Valery and Luda, was that Gorbachev had done them some good a long time ago. 3 years ago, says Valery, I'd have told you I liked him. He changed a lot in the world, Luda says, but not here. He hasn't done anything for us. But once people thought about it, they admitted that Gorbachev had opened their lives in many ways, that even if they may be afraid of running short of food or fuel this winter, they no longer are afraid of their government and its police. They can criticize their leaders, turn them into dolls if they want to, and that is mostly a good thing, although today the street sellers complained that the Gorbachev model isn't selling as well as it used to. Thanks to Gorbachev, Moscow bookstores have real current event sections and political science departments, where, it turns out, Gorbachev's writings remain on sale, and according to this saleswoman, still sell well. But Gorbachev was always popular with his country's more educated people, the playwrights and the novelists, whom he rescued from censorship.
I wouldn't say that he's very popular. On the contrary, he's completely unpopular. But at the same time, I think when in 5, 10, 20 years, he will be greeted as Peter the Great or Alexander II, I mean, the best Russian tsars.
It was not only in the libraries of intellectuals that we found such sentiment. This man on the cigarette line said, democracy did not start with Yeltsin, it started with Gorbachev. If there had not been a Gorbachev, there would never have been a Yeltsin.
Теперь кнопка на ядерном оружии уже у Ельцина.
The nuclear button is now already with Yeltsin.
Yeltsin, who from today not only heads Russia, but also controls all of the old Soviet Union's arsenal of nuclear missiles, and whose team has to weigh the meaning of a Gorbachev out of power.
It looks like he plans to be in opposition. We were opposition to him, and he now plans, this is my feeling.
Tonight he signed away his power, and without it, it may be that Gorbachev will never again walk with footsteps that shake the globe. But today, even people opposed to Gorbachev declared that he had earned his place in history. On this night, when they raised the flag of Russia over the Kremlin, one woman said of Gorbachev, "I will never forget his years in power. They were the best and the worst of my life." John Donvan for Nightline in Moscow.
During Gorbachev's years in power, there was a drastic change in the way he was viewed by the U.S. and by George Bush. In 1989, Mr. Bush's spokesman denounced Mr. Gorbachev, calling him a drugstore cowboy whose promises to end military aid to Nicaragua were not to be trusted. Less than 2 years later, the president was praising Gorbachev as an ally in the fight to reduce nuclear weapons. And tonight, Mr. Bush cut short his holiday at Camp David for a nationally televised speech paying homage to the Soviet Union's final leader. ABC's Ann Compton is at the White House.
The day's historic events brought President Bush a Christmas present he could not have imagined even weeks ago. In fact, he found them so compelling, he returned to the White House just long enough to address the American people and tell them their most formidable enemy no longer exists.
The Soviet Union itself is no more. This is a victory for democracy and freedom. I'd like to express on behalf of the American people my gratitude to Mikhail Gorbachev for years of sustained commitment to world peace and for his intellect, vision, and courage.
President Bush turned to the political reality ahead, granting formal diplomatic recognition to the largest republic, which will fill much of the void left by Gorbachev and the old Soviet government.
The United States recognizes and welcomes the emergence of a free, independent, and democratic Russia led by its courageous president, Boris Yeltsin. Our embassy in Moscow will remain there as our embassy to Russia. We will support Russia's assumption of the USSR's seat as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council.
And the president went on to offer full diplomatic recognition to all the Soviet republics. The offer is effective immediately for 5 republics, including Ukraine, which have already made specific guarantees to the United States about the safety of nuclear weapons and transforming their markets into free markets. The other 6 republics, including Georgia, will be recognized when they do the same. President Bush then abandoned the word Soviet and spoke of helping the new Commonwealth of Independent States. But he clearly knew he will find very limited patience at home for spending abroad.
These dramatic events come at a time when Americans are also facing challenges here at home. I know that for many of you, these are difficult times. And I want all Americans to know that I'm committed to attacking our economic problems at home with the same determination we brought to winning the Cold War.
After his address to the nation, President Bush returned to Camp David, but he said he made the special effort to come down here tonight because he has now witnessed one of the greatest dramas of the 20th century. Sam?
Thank you, Ann. When we come back, we'll be joined again by Ted Koppel in Moscow.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by General Electric.
The people of Tokyo, like people everywhere, know their future depends upon getting more electricity in a cleaner, more economical way. To get it, they turn to GE, the world leader in gas and steam.